Welcome to episode 3 of the 6-part series. My question for you folks is, are you overwhelmed or are you underlanguaged? Now, maybe you don't know what that means, but I promise you that if you are out there struggling with naming your emotions, you're like, Nina, I get it. I'm feeling things, but I don't have a language for that. This entire episode is on emotional literacy. It is the third profile in the 6 profiles that we have for the emotional security spectrum. Yes. So thank you for tuning in. If you are wondering where we have come from in our last episode, it was about emotional awareness. Yes, being aware that there are emotions, that you are in fact feeling them, whether you were taught that you have them or not, you are feeling them. And now emotional literacy is about learning how to see how they show up in your body. Yes, learning how they show up in your body so that you can do something about it. Yes. Emotional awareness is very clearly described as one thing stereotypically, right? How we have an emotionally aware character versus an emotionally literate character. And I'm going to give you that change because I want you to see what the transition is like from the past episode into this episode. So if you're coming from emotional awareness, stereotypically what you're saying is, you know what, I've noticed that something is off. Some people do seem to have other ways that they deal with things. I don't have those ways of dealing with things, but something could be missing for me. I don't know if I really want to figure out what it is, but I'm at least aware that there's something else that's going on here. Okay. That is an emotionally aware individual. Emotionally literate individuals come in saying, nope, you know what? I have been aware for a while now that something was off, to the point that I then learned about the different things that were happening. I started to recognize some of my patterns, and then I learned how to label them. Okay. I became emotionally literate by labeling my emotions and learning how they show up in my body. Because here's the thing, folks, they show up differently in everyone's body. Now, there are some patterns for sure because we're all human. But in this profile, what this character is really saying is, you know what? Instead of avoiding the discomfort at this point, I've been aware that it's been around for a while. I want to lean into my edge and see what I can make happen here. Okay. Emotional literacy. I want to learn the language, how it's showing up in my body, and I want to do something about it. And this whole podcast is about inviting you into the emotional arena so that we can tangle, wrangle, work it out in there and help you level up in life, love, and leadership. Okay. So get out a notebook so that you can take some notes here. If you're an auditory learner, wonderful. Be ready to click save, because with all of this, right? Are you really overwhelmed? By what's going on in your life, or are you underlanguaged? And the reason why I started this episode with this question is because the reality is, if you can imagine the metaphor that we brought in several episodes ago, which is your own internal emotional landscape, okay? I want you to imagine you have an emotional landscape, some of which you've explored, much of which you have not. And the reality is that when you come upon a part, excuse me, of your emotional landscape that is unfamiliar territory that you have not explored, that is the unknown. And the reality is that not naming or not knowing how to name the emotions that you feel doesn't make them go away, doesn't make them not affect your life either. Just because you're avoiding it doesn't mean it's not affecting your life, okay? Just because you don't know what it's called or how to name it doesn't mean it's not affecting your life. What it does mean is that we really have to ask ourselves, if I'm not able to name what's going on here, how can I navigate it? Now, many of us have been taught to push through, and I am going to be leaning into this episode, of course, with the story, as we do in all episodes. You'll have a learn this portion and then an adventure challenge at the end of the episode. But before I dive into that story, I really do want you to ask yourself that question, right? If you can't name it, how do you navigate it? Because most of us have been taught control the situation, right? Push through, make it happen. There's a lot of pressure involved with that. Doesn't really involve taking much time to process or explore. It's about pushing through. But what happens when you just keep pushing and it doesn't seem to go away? What happens when you just keep pushing forward in relationships, at work, professionally, right? Personally, in your romantic life, maybe as a parent or even with your parents, friends, so on and so forth. What happens if you just keep pushing forward in relationships, but you keep seeing the same patterns over and over and over again. What do you do with that? At what point did you say, you know what, Nina? I'm aware of it. I'm aware that there's a pattern. And now that I'm emotionally aware that there's a pattern, I want to learn how to name it so I can tame it. I want to learn how to name it so I can navigate it. If that's where you are, I am so ready to dive in with you, okay? Go ahead and grab that journal because we've got a story for you, folks. This is going to be pretty short and sweet. It is all character driven, and I am an X-Men girl, if that's not obvious. I'm aware we have some other characters in the episodes, but I'm really an X-Men girl. And when I think about the character that in today's episode will best describe emotional literacy, I'm going to choose Cyclops. Now, you don't have to know who Cyclops is, but let me tell you what's going on, okay? Cyclops originally has all this power, and the deal is the power comes out of his eyes and it will absolutely destroy things. Now, it comes out and will destroy things when he's feeling really big, intense emotions. Yeah. And before he learns how to name the emotions, how to figure out how to deal with the emotions, before he becomes emotionally literate and emotionally available, which the character does over time, he's really stuck in this place with all this power physically, right? But I want us to think emotionally here. All these emotions, this big, intense emotion, and he is not being taught how to deal with it, not how to recognize it or utilize it, right? What ends up happening for the character is that they get a visor, right? Visor over the eyes. And then they learn how to channel their emotions, their power, with the support of others and the visor, right? In this case, right? With tools and support from their community. Now, this is pretty critical for you out there in your emotional arena, because if you don't have support of tools and community, you're gonna have a really rough journey, okay? Real rough journey. It's not that you can't do it solo, it's that you don't exist in a vacuum. And you've probably been told, do it, muscle up, do it solo. And the reality is that if you can't lean into your edge and out of your comfort zone, you can't grow, folks. Seriously, just think about that. How do you grow out of your comfort zone if you're trying to maintain it? I'm going to argue that you can't. Now, you're not here to argue with me, so we'll put that on the shelf for now. And we'll get back to the story. Cyclops learns over time how to do this, but the reality is that at the beginning, he has no idea of what's really going on or how to deal with it. That may feel much like you, okay? And so when we're looking at emotionally literate Cyclops, what we're really saying is at this point, literally, I took some time to pull some quotes from episodes from the comics so that I'm really being true to this characterization, right, of real human facets, right? And some of the quotes go as follows, right? We have to control our powers or they control us, is one of the quotes. And what I say to my clients and have said from the very beginning, so some of you know this, right? Emotion is energy that must be expressed. If you don't express it, it will express you. And here's what I mean by that. Emotion is energy, okay? And I'm not talking magical energy. I mean like the energy that I have with you right now that feels the tone and my body language, right? If you're watching us on YouTube, okay? But feels the energy that you can feel even if you're only listening to the podcast, yeah? Emotion is energy that must be expressed. Emotion's job is to respond to what's happening in your environment. If you don't respond accordingly and let that emotion run through you, it will choose how you show up in the world. An emotionally literate individual recognizes this. They're saying, you know what? I have seen it. I am aware, previous profile, right, of it. And now I'm trying to learn how to name it. This is anger. This is sadness. This is joy. This is fear. This is disgust, right? I'm learning how to name it. Those are the 5 core emotions, folks, so that I can tame it. I'm learning how to control it so it doesn't control me. I am learning that emotion is energy that must be expressed. I cannot control it and hold on to it. I can funnel it and direct it. And so this character does learn over time. They gain skills with community and how to do this. And you can do the same thing by leaning into your edge. Just listening to this episode is a huge step forward, folks. But I want to keep going. Yes. Because another one of the quotes, is that at some point Cyclops recognizes and has become skilled enough, right? Says, I don't have the luxury of losing control. Now, this one works two-pronged, right? Because for some of you, like, I don't have the luxury of losing control, so I've got to control everything. But what I actually want you to think about is the reality of if you're trying to hold tight and control everything, that you are instead rigidly, maybe even with a perfectionist attitude, trying to hold on to something and ensure that it goes the way you think it should. But what if that's not what's best for you or the situation? What if you actually can't grow by controlling the power you have, controlling the emotional bits, right? What if it's actually not about control, but about the courage to be in the arena, the emotional arena? And I'm not saying fall apart and fall to pieces. I'm saying really show up and be present. Not control, oh, rigidly, this is how I'm going to be. No, courageously feel and show up. One of the biggest quotes that you'll see as you start to do this work is, we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for presence. And the emotionally literate individual has recognized this. They may not have all the skills that they want yet. They may not be emotionally available yet, which is the next profile. Yes, of growth when you level up. Emotionally available, it's coming, folks. But right now, for emotionally literate, you're recognizing presence. It's not about perfection. It's about your presence. It's about showing up and doing that work. So the last quote that I want to put in here is, Cyclops says, I'm not going to run from who I am anymore. And I really want you to lean in on that one. Quite genuinely, how long have you been running from your discomfort? How long have you been running from parts of who you are? Quick break for a sec. If Empowered Human is offering you something valuable about courage, healing, belonging, or love at your core, you may want to work with me. In particular, if you know of or identify as a high achieving man, and I say this quite seriously because if you don't, I'm going to drive you up a friggin' wall. High achiever that has leveled up in every arena except your relationship with yourself or your relationships with others. Visit empoweredhuman.love for more on how you can level up in your relationships with one of our Empowered Human intensives. Intensives understand the value of your time. Of the 3 that I offer, Walk into Courage covers a month's worth of weekly sessions in just 2 hours. Dive into Courage is a 3-day intensive that can cover up to 6 months worth of sessions. And Ascend into Courage is a year-long program to give you the skills and the network you need to level up for lifelong emotional security. When it comes to leveling up in your relationships, I got you. Head to empoweredhuman.love for more. But for now, back to the episode. I'm not running from myself anymore. I don't want you to run from yourself anymore. There's some really beautiful growth that can happen if we have the courage to not control, but to feel. Because control is not the same as courage. The courage to really feel through this so you can genuinely get to the other side. Yeah? Not perfection, presence. So I hope you're taking something from all of this up to this point. Yes, because of course we've reached the learn this portion. As if you have not gotten enough. There are 3 actual steps that I would invite, right? If Cyclops were to walk into my office and be like, Nina, I want to level up some more, I got you. Yeah. If you're out there like, man, I feel like Cyclops, right? I feel like Cyclops. In our last episode, it was Spider-Man. Yes, I wanted you to embrace your Spider-Man. And before that, it was Wolverine. So you can always go back if you're like, nope, this isn't me. I'm not ready yet. But if you're here with Cyclops in the emotionally literate profile, my hat is off to you for getting to this point in the episode. And here's what we've got. There are 3 specific steps that I invite for my clients who are in an emotionally literate phase so that they can strengthen, maintain that so that they don't slide back to just emotionally aware. I want them to be literate. And when we get overwhelmed, we can slide back, right? It happens. It's a part of being human. And yet, here I am saying, I want to keep inviting you to level up and move forward at the pace that's right for you. And so, step 1 is I want you to start to use I statements, a big piece of prior profiles, right? If you're emotionally unavailable or only emotionally aware, right? Just becoming aware of things. and not yet emotionally literate, a big part of your process is learning how to stop blaming other people for the patterns in your life, to stop judging other people for why your life is the way that it is. Emotional literacy, about naming the things that are showing up in your world. Again, presence, really going into your emotional landscape and being in the arena. So I want you to use I statements instead of, Susie Q did this to me and this is why I did this. I felt sad when I realized I didn't feel chosen again. I didn't feel chosen is a shorter way to say that, right? So Susie Q didn't choose you for something. I didn't feel chosen. Not Susie Q didn't choose me. Don't put it on Susie Q. I didn't feel chosen. And then we figure out what's needed for you, excuse me, right? This is emotional literacy. I felt alone, not you guys left me alone. Now, don't get me wrong. You literally might have had a crew leave you alone, right? But the purpose of emotional literacy is to recognize I felt alone. Did you say something when you felt alone? Did you say something when you didn't feel chosen? Or did you stay quiet? See, now you've recognized it. That's just emotionally aware, but emotionally literate says, no, I felt alone. That's how I felt. I can claim that. I can own that, which is great because now it's you in your own arena owning what you feel. It's going to give you so much more agency when you move into emotional availability, which is the next profile, which is you being able to show up and be available with other people. Yes, at emotionally literate, that's kind of a struggle. You're learning how to separate your emotions from somebody else, how to even recognize, right, your emotions in this case, right? We're not yet emotionally available. We just want to recognize and have the language and literacy within ourselves say, this is how I'm feeling and this is how it shows up in my human body. So let's keep going. That first step that I said was to being able to use I statements, okay? The second one is not only are you going to use I statements, I'm feeling this, I noticed this, right? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to ask for consent to share that. Yeah, I want you to express it to that person, right? I want to share something with you, Susie Q. I want to share something with you, friends that left me behind, right? I want to share something with you. Would it be okay if I'm honest? Can I share my heart with you? Hey, can I just be real with you? Whatever your language is on that, absolutely speak from you, right? Speak from your own humanity, but do speak. I don't care if it's in a text message or a phone call or a voice note or in person. If you have an I statement and you're now able to label how you're feeling, you're not in the unknown anymore. Now you've labeled it. You can navigate this. Your next step is to express it. Sometimes it's just about expressing it to yourself, right? Then you can do something about it privately. Maybe we don't need to hang out with Susie Q anymore. Maybe the friends have done this so many times, like, wow, they're really not of value to me. That would be you being able to take action, being able to share with yourself and take action. But let's say you really value the relationship with Susie Q, or you really value those friendships. What you're going to do is ask for consent. Like, hey, can I share with you something, Susie Q? Susie Q, hopefully being a good friend, will say, yeah, what's up? And you'll be honest. I felt left out. I felt not chosen. I felt lonely. I felt fill in the blank, however you genuinely felt. Um, and I'm wondering how to not feel that way. Or I just wanted to share that with you so that I was sharing something that's on my heart. I don't need you to fix it, Susie Q, right? Which is the other thing. I don't want you to go in trying to fix this with the other person. I just want you to express it to them and see if you can hold that space, right? I don't want you to try to fix it. Here I am. If you're open to their feedback, I'm not saying you can't, but that would be the third step, okay? The third step is then to ask for feedback without the need to fix. And I think that's really important. If we use the Susie Q example, right? First step is just to acknowledge, oh man, Susie Q might have done XYZ things, but the reality is if I'm using an I statement and Nina said, emotionally literate, I got to use my I statements. I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling left out. Why am I feeling that way? Did I speak my mind? Did I share my truth? Did I express to them that I wanted to? Maybe Susie Q didn't even recognize that I wanted to be chosen. We don't know what's going on with Susie Q. All we know is what you're feeling, and I want you to own that in step one. And then you move to step two. Maybe you do share this with Susie Q because you're like, hey, I'm curious. That's a previous skill. I'm curious what was going on for Susie Q. So then you say, Susie Q, can I share something with you? You're asking for consent to share. It gives you more agency as opposed to just sharing and putting your feelings all over Susie Q, right? We don't know where Susie Q is coming from yet. Yeah. So you're going to ask for that consent. Can I share something with you? I'm curious about something. whatever your language is. Find out what your language is for asking for consent to share. Okay. It's not permission, just so we're clear. I get this from clients sometimes. Nina, I shouldn't have to ask permission to share how I'm feeling. This isn't permission. What you're doing is you're saying, do you have capacity for this? Because I have something that I want you to witness, and I need to know that it's being valued right now. Mic drop. That's what you're doing when you ask for consent. It's deeply respectful. It really honors a relationship, folks. Okay. Ask for consent to share. That's your step 2. And after that, you said, no, I don't need you to share anything. Thank you. It was just, I'm working on expressing myself. I just want to make sure that I'm heard and that I understood. Right. That's enough right there. But let's say you want to go to step 3, right? After you've consent to share, hey, Susie Q, I felt this way. I felt left out. And I realized I didn't share that with you. Or, hey, I felt left out and I was curious. Like, did you even know that I wanted to be chosen? Right? That's your step 2. But let's say you moved on to step 3 and now you're going to ask for feedback. And I want to know, I want to hear from you, your perspective. I don't need you to fix anything, Susie Q. And I'm not going to, try to fix how you feel either about it. I just wanted to get your perspective. I was just curious. That's your level 3, folks. We move from, oh, I statement privately, I'm acknowledging this to myself, to, I'm going to ask for consent to share, but I don't necessarily need feedback. And I'm going to let them know that I just want to express my feelings and know that I'm not blaming them for anything. Or step 3, no, and then I'm going to ask for feedback. I do want to get their perspective. I am curious and I have capacity for whatever they're going to share with me. It's kind of a big one, right? Do you have capacity for it? I actually want to pause there because I think capacity is such a critical piece of the emotional security journey as you're leveling up, right? To build emotional security, it's about building capacity. It's not about being more in control, actually. It is about being skilled. It is about having healthy relationships, absolutely. But as you go through each profile, what you're building, and I feel so much just this wave of comfort as I say this to you all. What you're building is capacity to be able to weather the storm that will inevitably come. And I will say, don't try to control it. You can try to avoid the storm, but it's still going to come for you. The best thing that you can learn is how to weather the storm. And every episode that you listen to, every skill that you try, every time you lean into your edge courageously, not with control, but with courage, you are building capacity for a better world for you, a better world for your life, a better world for your love life, and certainly for you as a leader. This is how we do it. This is how we build emotional security. We're coming to the end of the episode, and I love to give adventure challenges. You all know this. And this episode's no different. The first skill that I invited you to use was I statements. So between this episode and next episode, my adventure challenge to you is to just use I statements. Start catching when you're blaming other people. Start catching when you're judging other people, and just start putting it back on, man, what do I have agency and control over right now? If I were to use an I statement, I'm feeling lonely. I keep showing up for somebody who's not showing up for me. I keep choosing a friend group that has repeatedly left me out of things. I want you to find out where your real agency is and where your real choice is. Okay? If you're like, no, you know what, Nina? I really want to dive into the emotional security profiles. Take the quiz. Okay. We've got a quiz. Link is in the show notes, the emotional security quiz. Okay. You will find your emotional security type. It will clarify for you the same 3 steps that I've already given you, right? It'll be written down for you. So you also get a visual representation of it. And then, of course, if you want to talk more about it, you can always schedule a call with me. It's a free, right, consultation call. And we go a little deeper into your results. One final thing I'm going to leave you with, folks. There's an equation. And this episode wraps up the first part of this equation. Here's what I mean. There's an equation we use for emotional security, and it's this. Get ready to write this down. Emotional fitness plus emotional wealth is what equals emotional security. Emotional fitness is the skills that you have in order to regulate yourself. It's your awareness, your self-respect, your self-care, your ability to funnel your emotions, to be with your emotions, right? To be flexible and strong in emotionally speaking, right? Your ability to be in your own emotional arena. That's what emotional fitness is. When we say plus emotional wealth, that's about relationships. And both of these things over time are going to equal your emotional security. But the reason why I bring this equation up right now is emotional fitness, the profiles that go in that are the first three profiles, and this episode marks the third profile. So if you've been listening to the last two episodes plus this one, right? So these three episodes, you have gone through all three profiles that we talk about specifically when you're working on your emotional fitness and leveling up in that category. If this doesn't make sense, DM me on Instagram at Empowered with Nina, okay? I will chat with you. I will send you some resources and we'll get you covered. Otherwise, you have your adventure challenge between this episode and the next episode, because then we're moving into the emotional wealth section of the equation. And I have to be honest with you, most people are in the emotional fitness section. Most people are really struggling in the emotional fitness section, but it's not magic, it's skills. It's skills and it's courage. And this is the first thing that we start inviting you to lean into your edge with. It's courage, to build your courage to do incredible things. Okay? All right. That is what I planned for you, folks. I really hope that you took something golden from this episode. Write it down now. Go take the quiz. Whatever it is that works for you, take action. You've got between this episode and the next episode to take action, and then we'll be learning some more. Okay. My hat is off to you for listening. I'm incredibly proud of you for making it to this moment in the episode. Thank you for listening in. And until next time. Thank you for being you, quite genuinely. Oh, I'm so ready to move into the next one, which is, by the way, emotional availability, which is what some of you have been waiting for. So, okay, all right. I already told you goodbye. Goodbye.